Hey, I'm Scott and I am an American in Bangkok, and today I am going to read a comment that someone sent me about why he left Thailand. So some people want to leave America, some people want to leave Thailand, but let me just get right into it here. He says, I stayed for 8 years. I left because working there in Thailand doesn't build a future once I get old. I am a teacher and schools in Thailand use you and treat you like a temporary worker every year, and they abuse you until you ignore them and they fire you or you leave. My school kept me for years without helping me get the teaching license, and this year I made it mandatory that if they tried to play bullshit again, I'd leave. So they made excuses again, even though all they had to do was transfer my U.S. teaching license over, and so I accepted a teaching job back home. The Thai school didn't want to accept me into their international department because they'd have to fill my harder-to-fill job, and they didn't want to get me the license, so I wouldn't use it to move up and out. I moved back to the States, and I make tons more money. I work with people who treat me with respect, and I'm considered a specialist instead of a seasonal hire. I made this move because it gave me more experience in U.S. schools, and it creates a background that if I so choose, I can come and work in international schools and just forego the BS private/government schools completely. If I play it right, I can save enough here, build my retirement, and get enough experience, and then I can come back to Thailand and at some point make the same wage as the U.S., but with less bills to pay. So, he's got a point. English teaching here is, first of all, English teaching here has never been a hugely prosperous endeavor. So if you're going to be an English teacher here in Thailand, understand you are going to be making less than what you're supposed to make, which is 65,000 baht a month. You're going to make less than that if you're an American. Depends on your nationality, but let's say that you have to make 65,000. Maybe you'll make 35,000. Maybe you'll make 40. Maybe you'll make 30,000 and you'll get a free room if you're working out in the countryside. But you're not going to be making 150,000 baht. You probably won't even be making 80,000 baht. If you want to earn more money as a school teacher here in Thailand, you're going to need, the more qualifications you have, the better you shall be paid, at least in theory. If you have all the qualifications, as in maybe you've taught before in the United States, you are a career teacher, you should be able to find a job to where you earn more money here. Now, I only know one guy that's a teacher now, and he does pretty well. He doesn't have any complaints at all, and he takes his job extremely seriously. Now, many years ago, I taught English. This is probably 25 years ago, 26 years ago. I taught English at an English school over on Chitlom. I think the most I ever earned was 40,000. It depended on the hours, and it wasn't what I would call a job that I really enjoyed, but I didn't hate it. But what I didn't like was that my day was broken up. I would teach from, say, 8 to 11, and then I'd have 4 hours or 5 hours off, and then I'd have to teach for another 3 hours. So unless I wanted to stay at the school or in the area, I'd need to go home, and that makes for a long day, and you don't make much money. So if you're thinking about working as a teacher in Thailand, my suggestion would be to make sure that you're in it for the right reason. I've always said this. If you're coming here, I'll teach a little English just to pay the bills, you're probably not going to be the greatest teacher, and say what you will, but Thailand has wised up a little bit. They're not this is not the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s where, oh, you can speak English? Come on, you can work in our school. And they don't pay you much, but, you don't have to show much. Even when I went in, it was basically, listen, I'll come in on time, I won't come in drunk, and I'll do the best I can. Boom, you're hired. It was just like that. And this is back in the late 90s. That's really all I have, but I just thought it was interesting that he wrote in, he wanted to comment about this. There are always expats that are leaving. In fact, most expats only last 5 to 10 years. They work their job for, say, 5 to 10 years. They either get tired of it, or they move on to another country, or they move back home. This guy was yet another person who has decided to leave Thailand because it's the better option for him. This guy actually gave me a summary about exactly how he feels. He said, Thailand used me up, held me down, and carrot on a sticked me until I opened my eyes and sobered up enough to get the F out of here and be serious in the real world. The number of jobs in Thailand where foreigners are really treated well and they have a little bit of standing are far less than people might like to think. This is not a place for someone who is underqualified. If you're underqualified, you're going to have a hard time getting on with anybody. If you're underqualified, you're going to have a hard time making it here. You better have your own business, your own way of bringing in the dollars. Otherwise, you're probably not going to get hired at a school where you're teaching English to kids. So if you're coming here to be a teacher, really, nowadays, you should be someone who is genuinely interested in teaching. You really want to be a teacher. You enjoy teaching. You're not really doing it for the money. And you have qualifications. If you're underqualified, you're going to be making peanuts and you're not going to have anywhere to go. This guy, he has a teaching license back in the States. And while teachers, I always say teachers are very underappreciated, at least he feels now he's getting his just due. And then if he wants, he can come back a few years down the road. He's got more experience, more money socked away, and hopefully he'll be able to get a better job. Anyway, that's all I have. Until next time, I'm Scott. I'm an American in Bangkok. Choke the hell, jerk down.